kindness of strangers, the afternoon sun filtered through the train windows, casting long golden streaks across the worn fabric seats. Emma adjusted her position, trying to find comfort in the cramped space as the train swayed gently along the tracks. She had been traveling for 3 hours already, with another 2 to go before reaching her destination. The steady rhythm of the wheels against the rails had become a soothing backdrop to her thoughts. Around her, the train car buzzed with the quiet energy of tired travelers. Some dozed with their heads against the windows, others scrolled through their phones, and a few read books or newspapers. Emma found herself people-watching, a habit she had developed during her many solo journeys for work. As a freelance graphic designer, she often traveled to meet clients in different cities, and these train rides had become her time to think and observe. The train began to slow as it approached the next station. Emma glanced at her watch and realized they were only halfway through the journey. She stretched her legs and looked out the window at the small town platform where a handful of people waited to board. As the doors opened, a wave of new passengers entered the car. Emma watched as they searched for available seats, their faces showing the familiar mixture of hope and resignation that comes with public transportation. That's when she noticed him. A tall man with dark hair and kind eyes stepped into the car, carrying a small boy who couldn't have been more than 3 years old. The child had the same dark hair as his father, but his eyes were heavy with exhaustion. His small head rested against the man's shoulder, and Emma could see he was fighting sleep. The father's eyes scanned the crowded car, searching for 2 seats together. Emma watched as his shoulders sagged slightly when he realized there were no empty pairs available. The little boy stirred in his arms, whimpering softly, and the man gently bounced him, whispering quiet words of comfort. Emma felt her heart tug at the sight. She had always been drawn to acts of kindness, perhaps because she had received so few of them during her own difficult childhood. Without hesitation, she stood up and approached the father. "Excuse me," she said softly, not wanting to wake the child. "Would you like to sit here? I can stand for a while." The man looked surprised, his eyes widening slightly. "Oh no, I couldn't ask you to do that. Thank you. But please," Emma insisted gently. "He looks tired, and you both need to rest more than I do." The father hesitated for a moment, clearly torn between gratitude and politeness. The little boy chose that moment to wake up, rubbing his eyes with tiny fists and looking around with confusion at the unfamiliar surroundings. "Daddy, I'm sleepy," the child mumbled, his voice thick with drowsiness. The father's resolve crumbled. "Are you absolutely sure?" he asked Emma, his voice filled with genuine appreciation. "Of course," Emma replied, already moving to gather her small bag. "I insist." "Thank you so much," the man said, settling into the seat with his son. "I'm David, by the way, and this is Tommy." "I'm Emma," she replied, smiling at the little boy who was now looking at her with curious eyes. "Thank you, Emma," Tommy said in his sweet, high voice, already snuggling back into his father's arms. Emma found herself standing in the aisle, holding onto the overhead rail as the train continued its journey. She didn't mind at all. In fact, watching the father and son settle into comfort gave her a warm feeling that was worth far more than a seat. As the miles passed, Emma found herself in quiet conversation with David during the moments when Tommy was awake. She learned that they were traveling to visit David's sister, who had recently had a baby. David mentioned that he ran a small business, though he was modest about the details. Emma shared a bit about her own work, and they discovered they both loved art and had similar tastes in books. What struck Emma most was how attentive David was to his son. He seemed to anticipate Tommy's needs before the child even expressed them, offering snacks, water, or gentle entertainment whenever the boy grew restless. It was clear that David was not just a father, but a devoted one. The train began to slow as they approached Emma's stop. She felt a strange reluctance to leave, having enjoyed the unexpected companionship more than she had anticipated. "This is where I get off," she said, gathering her things. David looked genuinely disappointed. Already the time went by so quickly. Tommy, now fully awake, looked up at Emma with wide eyes. "Do you have to go?" Emma knelt down to the boy's level. "I do, sweetheart, but it was wonderful meeting you and your daddy." David reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. "I know this might sound forward, but I'd love to take you to dinner sometime, to properly thank you for your kindness today." Emma looked at the card and felt her eyebrows raise. In surprise, the elegant letterhead read Mitchell & Associates, Architecture and Design, with David's name listed as Chief Executive Officer. She realized that his modest description of running a small business had been quite an understatement. Double quotes, Emma started, then smiled. "I'd like that very much." As she stepped off the train, Emma turned back to wave goodbye. Through the window she could see David lifting Tommy to wave back, both of them smiling broadly. 3 days later, Emma's phone rang. David's warm voice filled her ear as he asked if she was free for dinner that weekend. During their conversation she learned that he had been a single father for 2 years, since his wife had passed away from cancer. He had built his architectural firm from the ground up, but his priority had always been Tommy. Their dinner date led to another, and then another. Emma discovered that David's success hadn't changed his fundamental kindness and humility. He was the same thoughtful man she had met on the train. just with a few more responsibilities than she had initially realized. Months later, as Emma played with Tommy in David's backyard while he prepared dinner, she reflected on how a simple act of kindness had changed her life. She had offered her seat to a stranger without expecting anything in return, and in doing so had found something she didn't even know she was looking for. David appeared in the doorway, watching Emma and Tommy with a smile that spoke of deep contentment. "Dinner's ready," he called out as they sat around the table. Tommy chattering excitedly about his day at preschool, Emma felt a profound sense of belonging. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters in life begin with the smallest gestures of kindness. A offered seat, a grateful smile, and an open heart had brought them all together. The train had carried them to their destination that day, but kindness had carried them much further than any of them could have imagined.